week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I have as sleeper options this week. The first guy, Daniel Jones of the New York Giants. So it looks like Jones wasn't going to play early in the week because of a neck strain. But right now, he's practiced the last couple days here, and it looks like he's going to play most likely as Daniel Jones at the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins do give up the ninth most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. And Jones, over the last few weeks, he's been up and down. Week 9 versus Vegas, 110 pass yards, a touchdown, 17 rush yards, and a fumble loss. Week 11 at Tampa Bay, 167 pass yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions, 10 rushing yards. And last week versus the Eagles, 202 pass yards, a touchdown, and 30 yards rushing. So we know Jones, he has decent legs where he could get 30 or 40 yards rushing per game with possibly a rushing touchdown. So this week here, Miami, as long as he's going to be playing, I think he's a good sleeper option who's available right now in 75% of fantasy leagues. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if he goes for, let's say, 215, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So right now, if you're desperate for a sleeper quarterback, I think Jones is a decent one. This week, the next guy, Tyler Viglia of the Miami Dolphins, staying in the same game here. So Tua, he's been decent this season, I would say, here for the most part. And this Dolphin team, believe it or not, they've won 4 ball games in a row now, and Tua has been the quarterback during that time. So the last few games for Tua, Week 10 versus Baltimore, 158 pass yards, a rushing touchdown. Week 11 at the Jets, 273 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and an intro. And Week 12 versus the Carolina Panthers, 230 pass yards and a touchdown. So right here, Tua, we don't know what Tua we're going to get in this one, but he's been more of a game manager where the defense and the running game have come up big for this Miami Dolphin team over this 4-game winning streak. But here this week, I think he could have a good game versus the Giants. The Giants defense isn't all that great, and I think if you need a guy that just has to get 15 to 20 points this week, I think Tua is a decent option, and he's available still in 64% of fantasy leagues. And the third and final quarterback I have as a sleeper this week is Terra Heinecke of the Washington football team. So Heinecke, he's had some moments this season where he's put up big fantasy games. And right now, the last few weeks here, nothing crazy from him except Week 11 had a good one. Week 10, though, versus Tampa, 256 pass yards, touchdowns, 15 yards rushing. Week 11 at the Panthers, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, 29 yards rushing. And last week on the victory on Monday Night Football, 223 pass yards, a touchdown, and an intro. So right here, this football team, they've won 3 games in a row, and they got a decent matchup on paper at the Vegas Raiders that give up the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. So right here, I think Terra Heinecke could score anywhere from 18 to 20 fantasy points and is a decent option as a sleeper this week. And he's available as well in 66% of fantasy leagues. So sleeper options I have a quarterback for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.